it's not at all. We don't go to offices and sit in cubicles. We don't go to some fucking factory where we have to adhere to OSHA standards and wear steel-toed shoes and hearing protection and fucking respirators and all that shit. And there are lots of people who have to grind out a living that way because they don't have a choice. They've made their choice a long time ago, and now the couch is either too fucking comfortable, or they got too many kids, or too much or too little or something to ever pursue their passion. If you're lucky enough to get to a point where you can be in a situation like this and work on developing your craft to pursue your passion and help other artists make the best possible records that they can make, then that's something that's great and wonderful and should be, is not to be taken lightly. The responsibility of an intern who wants to become an engineer, the responsibility of an engineer in general is to, serve the artistic vision of your client. And in order to do that, you need to know how to do a fuckload of things. You need to know how to, put a session together. You need to know your gear, your mics, your room, mixing technique, how to soothe fragile egos and deal with big ones, and one of the guys that works around here who's kind of like my mentor, I like to think of him as such anyway, has said, production's just babysitting, and anybody who can go down to Kinko's and make business cards is a producer. And on one hand, he's right, and on the other hand, you know that's bullshit, and so do I. But since the job description of producer is so fucking nebulous, he's, on the other hand, completely right. Any Tom, Dick, or Harry can say that they're a producer, and lo and behold, they're a producer. But that same guy asked me what it takes to make a record. And, he didn't really qualify the question with more than, what does it take to make a record? The sub-question is, what does it take to make a hit record? And, ignoring all the obvious things like talent and money, the people who have achieved the greatest stuff in all walks of life weren't necessarily the best at what they did. They were people that tried their asses off and cared like hell what happened at the end. And if you can do that every day, with every task as an intern and every task as an engineer and every task as a producer, then that's all that can be asked from you, is to try your ass off and care like hell how that end product turns out. Is the piece of art that you're making, is it right? Is it? And I'm only talking in terms of the piece of art itself. Like, this is that cyclic, the work is the reward thing. Like, each song or album, to me at least, and I'm sure there'll be tons of people who disagree with me, has a finite point at which it's complete. Going further will fuck it up, and not getting there will have fucked it up too. There's a sweet spot for everything. And if you can learn to divine that, then that means you're a producer. That's what it takes to make a record. And, in order to get there, you gotta throw out a lot of trash, make a lot of cups of coffee, set up and tear down a lot of sessions, and make a lot of food runs. But like I said, if you don't like your job, quit. Like, I have lofty goals, I want to win a Grammy. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that out loud. I want to be part of a Grammy-nominated or Grammy-winning recording. I don't think that's ridiculous. That's recognition amongst your peers for work that you've achieved over time, and there's legitimacy to that. It lends a certain amount of, we can't call it street cred, we could call it Rodeo Drive cred, I suppose, to what it is that you do. And I think that if somebody says they're going to make it big, and they do what I was talking about earlier, they try their asses off at all times, and they really care about what they're doing, and they care about the client and the song and the album and, you know, every little detail that needs to be cared for, then sure, you know, I think that maybe you've got just as good a shot as anybody. Like, does that stuff alone guarantee you're going to make it? Hell no, because there's too much luck involved. And, you know, I guess I believe in destiny rather than fate, because to me destiny means like you have a goal in mind, like you see yourself at a certain point and you take steps to get there. Whereas I think fatalists are more like, no matter what the fuck I do, X, Y, and Z are gonna happen. And, you know, I mean, I guess if it's in the cards for you to be famous, then, you know, then you will. But you have to, you know, just get to lay around in bed all day and become famous. You know, people for whom it's in the cards because they get their shit together and they are able to, like I was saying earlier, divine the right, you know, the rest of the team. You know, like, you can be the best producer in the world, and if you don't have anybody to produce, then you ain't going nowhere. But if you can find an artist that's really got it, and if you don't know what I mean when I say that, then, you know, fucking go to community college, learn to swing a hammer, because this ain't the industry for you. But if you know what it is, and you know it when you see it, and if you have it, then, you know, like, that's a good chunk of change in your pocket right there. Any other brain busters for me?